Hi, this is Sweet June. How's everybody doing this evening? Uh, I want to talk about, I've been doing a lot of videos about single motherhood. Um, as I stated in one of my other videos, that my single motherhood journey is coming to a close. I mean, my son will be graduating in June. So my single motherhood, as far as I'll always be a mother, but as far as being a single mother and doing the single mommy duty thing, working, taking care of kids and all that, getting off to school, daycare, all that, all those things. That chapter of my life will be officially over, and I will be ecstatic. It's you know um, little sad that my son is growing up, but at the same time, I'm glad that that chapter of my life will be over. I spent so many years being a single mom, and um, it's been looking back in retrospect, it's been rough. It's been a rough ride for me, um, and that brings me to my topic that because I talk about single motherhoods because I'm an expert. I'm an expert. I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing single mother for many, many years. So when I talk about single motherhood, I know what I'm talking about. So, um, I was marinating on some things, and um, I see these young ladies out here, and they're having um, children, multiple children, and they're single and they're not married, they're not financially ready, and it's like watching a train. To be honest, it's like watching a train wreck because I didn't already been where they're trying to go, and I know it's gonna be rough for them. I know that it's gonna be hard on them. They're gonna have a hard life, um, and um, when you, what I want to talk about is when you are a single mother, the more children that you have as a single parent, the deeper it takes you. It sinks you deeper into poverty. It's harder to get out of poverty when you are a single mother to multiple children. When you have more than one child, when you have one child, it's hard enough. It's hard enough when you have one child, but you can kind of halfway if you play your cards right and you do some things and you make some good moves, you might be able to pull yourself up out of the poverty if you just have one child. But it depends on how you play your cards, and how you do things. If you go to school, you go into the right field, you might be able to, it's a strong possibility that you will be able to pull yourself up out of poverty with one child. But when you go to having two, three, four, and so on and so forth, children, and you're a single parent, it it makes it more difficult for you to get out of poverty. Matter of fact, you will sink deeper into poverty, and it makes it that much more difficult. Um, First of all, I mean, the way the economy is set up, um, even married people with children, sometimes both people have to work because the way the economy is set up, everything is so expensive. Housing costs is expensive, food is expensive. You got to figure medical costs in there. If you don't qualify for Medicaid, you got to figure out how you're going to pay for health insurance for you or any children. If that's for married people. Housing costs, depending on where you live. If you live in one of your major cities, I say it's expensive everywhere. I say it's expensive everywhere. People say, well, LA is really expensive. Well, LA and New York are probably the two of the most expensive cities to live in, most likely. Um, I know I just seen something on. I read something on a blog not too long about last week. They was talking about people was moving out of the San Francisco area because San Francisco is ridiculously expensive, and they said like people are actually moving out in droves to San Francisco because they simply just cannot afford to live there. You practically have to be rich to live there. So they said San Francisco is one of the most expensive cities to live in, even more expensive than LA. So it's people are leaving in droves. So depending on what area, depending on what city of the country you live in, I say they're all expensive. Even this town that I live in a small city, but um, to get in a really decent area, just like anywhere else, to live in a decent area, you got to drop down some money. I mean, real estate, real estate here in Michigan is probably the one of the lowest in the country. Real estate, it's not bad here. You could get a house here. Like if you had $100,000, um, where I live, you could probably get a really, really nice house. You can get a really nice house for $100,000 here. So the housing market here in Michigan is actually pretty good, especially, right now if you go to Detroit and you go to the outer areas of Detroit, you can find you a nice house for, $100,000, So Michigan does have a good housing as far as their housing market is cheaper than a lot of other states in the country. But even here, I mean, if you wanna like some of the nicer areas, you're gonna drop down, over a grand, maybe 2 grand a month, you know, if it's some of the nicer areas in town, So it's just like anywhere else. If the better the area, the more money you gotta drop down. So it depends on the neighborhood. Certain areas of town that you live, you got to drop down. You got to drop down. You know, um, Even the apartments in that particular area is very expensive because it's the area. Everybody knows with real estate, it's about location, location. So depending on what area you living in, that's in any place. I don't care where it is. And so with housing costs being so expensive and everything, um, you know, um, if you have a family, even with married couples, you got to figure that in. You got to figure the food, clothing, medical expenses, all those things come into play. School, all those things, uh, clothes for the children, miscellaneous things for the house, furniture, transportation costs. You have to figure all that in. All those things have to be figured in. And so, and that's with married couples. And sometimes both people have to work. A lot of times, because it's the way this economy is. Everything is so expensive. So just imagine being a single mom. If you are a single mother and you have 2, 3 kids, it's going to be very difficult. You're going to have a very difficult time, um, unless you're getting some type of housing assistance. And even if you're getting housing assistance, you're still going to struggle. I remember when I was on Section 8, when I had my oldest son, when I first got on it, and as I state again, once again, like I did in several of my other videos, I am no longer on Section 8. But when I used to be, quote, when I used to be on Section 8 years ago, many, many, many years ago, when I first got on it, my rent was like $50 a month because I wasn't working. And I still was struggling, you know? So, I mean, when you have more kids, it it sinks you deeper into poverty. It makes it very difficult for you to get out of poverty as a single mother. And um, I just see these young ladies out here having multiple children, and it's like watching a train wreck. Because like I said, I've already been where they're trying to go. I know that they're gonna have a hard life. I know they're gonna have a rough road, unless you're able to go to school, get a nursing degree or something like that, and that's gonna be a challenge with you know kids, with being a single mom and you got children, unless you have an extremely exceptional support system, if you unless you have an extremely exceptional support system, that's the only way you're going to be able to go through nursing school or whatever. But it's going to be very difficult, um, trying to, because it's virtually, it's very difficult to raise a family on one income. Very, very difficult to raise a family on one income. I say a woman, a single mother, needs at least, I would say at least $50,000 a year in order to live, to be able to afford a decent housing, transportation costs, clothing, food, without getting, I'm talking about without getting any kind of assistance, like to be to be stable. For a single mother to be stable and to be able to support her children without any kind of assistance, no housing assistance, no Section 8, no food stamps, no nothing. I would say, and we'll even take child support out of there. I would say she would at least be able, have to at least be able to make $50,000 a year. I would say at the least $50,000 a year to be able for you and your children to live comfortably in a decent home and everything without struggling. I would say $50,000 a year at least. And most single mothers don't bring that in. And so, like I said, the more children you have, like I said, when you have one child, you might be able to pull yourself. I've seen single mothers with just had one child that was able to get up out, to pull out of poverty and to like create, have a decent life and live for her and the child and live comfortably for her and the child. But when you have one child, your chances of coming out of poverty is a lot better, you know, because you only have that one child. You have you and you have the one child. But when you start having two, three, four, five, and so on and so forth, it makes it very difficult for you to pull out of poverty. And then you will be in a position to where you will be deep into poverty. And like I say, I like to use the analogy of a deep pit. When I'm thinking about poverty, I like to use the analogy of that deep pit. Like say you fall into a deep pit and you try to climb yourself out of this pit. You try to dig your feet into the dirt or whatever, or to the grooves or whatever to get out, and then landslide happens and it knocks you back down. Now you got to start all over again. You get up so far and then something knocks you back down. I love using that analogy for poverty because it's like when you get so far out or you get to a certain level, something knocks you back down. And then you gotta start all over again. So I love to use that analogy of a deep pit with poverty. It's like literally like a deep pit. And the more children a woman has, the more difficult it is to pull out of that pit of poverty. So it's just not a good idea for um, these young ladies to be having multiple children without a husband, because it's even hard for married people when they have um, multiple children. I was reading something about Tori Spelling. I mean, I was reading something about Tori Spelling the other day. I don't believe everything I read in the tabloids because you know they lie a lot. Um, her and her husband, if you guys are familiar with that story, they had a reality show. Husband cheated on her and they got back together and now they got like 5 kids. And she talking about having another one. And she don't have any money. Her mother's footing the bill, so they say. Allegedly. I'm gonna say like Wendy Williams. Allegedly, her mother's helping her with the bills and all that stuff. And my thought is, and I was reading actually about that today, and I was thinking, I was looking at that, and I was like, well, why do they keep having all these kids if they can't afford them? And see, all I could think about is that she couldn't handle being poor. I said, I bet you she couldn't handle it. I bet you she could not handle. If she had to go down to the welfare line tomorrow, she would not be able to handle it because that girl was born rich. Her father, if you guys are familiar with Tori Spelling, her father was Aaron Spelling, and he produced all them shows. He was the producer of Dynasty and Beverly Hills 90210, where she was on that, and some other shows. I don't remember the other ones, but in the other shows, if he produced some other shows, and he built this great big old. Everybody know that he built this great big old huge house that wasn't a house; it was a building. He had it built from the ground up, and her mom, Candy Spelling, just sold that house for over, I forget, but I think it was over $200 million that she sold it for. She sold it for a lot of money. So her father only left her $800,000. Her and her brother, he only left them $800,000, and that ain't a whole lot of money. Um, and left the mom the rest. Because I guess he figured, well, y'all grown, I don't owe y'all nothing. I'm gonna look out for my girl though. So maybe that's how he was thinking. It is what it is. So now she didn't blew. Of course, she blew through that $800,000 a long time ago. So now she has this husband, and he's not working. Everybody know in show business, you're only as good as your last um, project. And Dean McDermott, that's his name, and he hasn't been working, steady as an actor. And I ain't seen him in nothing. And I don't mean to gossip. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to get into any gossip here because I'm not about all that. But anyway, to make a long story short, it said that they have these kids. All I could think about was reading about that, and all I could think about was why keep having kids if you can't afford them, you know? And they're married, you know? Um, according to the Bible, they can be fruitful and multiply if they're married. But if you cannot afford them, and my thought is, I said, if she goes into poverty, she ain't gonna be able to handle it because she ain't never been poor. So that's what I'm saying. Even with such situation like somebody like them, you know, it's very difficult. If both people are not working, y'all don't have no steady income coming in, it's very difficult. And that's somebody like, she had millions of dollars. So just imagine if you're a single mother and you got multiple children and it's just you and you don't just imagine what situation you're gonna be in. You're gonna be in deep poverty and it's gonna be very difficult to get out. So I just don't recommend any woman, any young lady to get in that situation. It just sinks you deeper and deeper into poverty. And it's very, very difficult to get out of it. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I'm speaking on experience. And so it just makes it very difficult. And I see these young ladies out here popping out baby after baby. It's like I said, it's like watching a train wreck. I know they're gonna have a hard life. And it's just sad, you know. Well anyway, that's just something that I was marinating on. I was gonna do that video topic a while back and just now getting to it. I'm gonna go get in the shower and because it's kind of late, and I'm gonna go to bed, get me a little shut eye for work tomorrow. Uh, I need you guys to like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And I got some more interesting video topics up. Stay tuned. God bless. This is Sweet Jim.